Coming up, the Yankees get a comeback win on Sunday, and the Reds' winning streak comes to an end over the weekend. This is Locked On Game to Game, MLB.
Every game, every team, every angle. Locked On Game to Game, your team every day.
Welcome in. You're listening to Locked On Game to Game MLB. Local experts join us to go over all of the action for you from yesterday across Major League Baseball. As always, we thank you for making Locked On your first listen every single weekday. I'm your host, Kainani Stevens. Let's get things going. The Twins and Tigers went to extra innings last night before Minnesota's 3-run 10th got the AL Central leaders a divisional win. The Locked On Twins recaps the final for us.
It appeared as though another hard luck loss was on the horizon for the Twins, but then fate stepped in. Or Nick Maton. His wild throw to Spencer Torkelson with 2 outs in the top of the 8th allowed Willie Castro to reach and Royce Lewis to score, not in the game at 3. Then in the 10th, the Twins exploited Maton yet again when Lewis singled home the Manfred man, Carlos Correa, on a ball that nicked off Maton's glove and allowed the go-ahead run to score. The Twins tacked on 2 more runs afterward, and Joan Duran did exactly what he does, retiring the side in order to cap off a 3-run win. The Twins are 40-39 and headed to Atlanta, where they'll see Spencer Strider on Monday against Sonny Gray. And for today's stat, you won't see anywhere else. This is the sign of an inconsistent offense. The Twins' top 3 lineup spots by OPS. Number 4, 881, the number 7 spot, 792, and somehow the number 9 spot at 754. Check back later for a full breakdown of the series.
After losing the series opener by a dozen runs, the Orioles bounced back in a big way. They got a win in extra innings on Saturday, and then they got a 1-run win on Sunday. Locked On Orioles has more about the weekend.
So the Orioles got walloped 13-1 on Friday night, but it did not matter. They come back, walk it off Saturday on the Ryan McKenna homer, and win it 3-2 on Sunday to win the series. Connor Newcomb here, host of Locked On Orioles, as the O's take 2 out of 3 from the Mariners, and that Sunday win was big. First of all, for Kyle Bradish. What a start it was for Bradish. He goes 7 innings, allowing just 2 runs. 2 out of his last 3 starts, he has completed 7. The bullpen locked it down with Felix Bautista bouncing back after giving up the home run and the blown save on Saturday. And then the offense did just enough. Who else but Anthony Santander hits his 5th homer in 6 games, including 1 in each of the 3 games this weekend. And then Anthony Bem Boom himself had the winning hit. I'll recap the Orioles' weekend series win coming up on Monday's episode of the Locked On Orioles podcast.
3 runs in the 8th inning turned a loss into a win for the Yankees in the Bronx, who came back to beat the Rangers. Locked On Yankees has more after the comeback.
The Yankees explode for 5 runs against the Rangers on Sunday. I'm Stacey Gotsoulias with Locked On Yankees, and heading into this series, it looked iffy for the Yankees just because of the way they lost their last game against Seattle. Texas is a good team. They're the 2nd best team in the American League, and their offense is, quite frankly, scary. And the Yankees came away with 2 out of 3 this weekend. Sunday's game was the highlight, but not until the 8th inning. Yankees found themselves down 3-2. Anthony Volpe leads off with a double. Jose Trevino hits a single. Harrison Bader hits a double. And Giancarlo Stanton, who hadn't been doing much of anything since he came back from the IL, hits an RBI single, and the Yankees find themselves up 5-3 heading into the top of the 9th, and they win the game. Now, the other big story of this game, Garrett Cole only lasting 4 2/3 innings. It was the shortest outing of the year, but the bullpen came in and closed it down. The Yankees bullpen is the best in the business with a 2.85 ERA, and they showed why this weekend. So we have everything you need to know about this game, the whole weekend, and we talk about the Yankees managing injuries this season. Something's up with them.
Coming up, the Brewers win in extras and the White Sox beat the Red Sox. This is Locked On Game to Game MLB. Today's edition of Locked On Game to Game is brought to you by eBay Motors. A championship team is about each player being a perfect fit. Same thing goes for your vehicle. So for parts that fit, head to eBay Motors and look for the green check. Stay in the game with eBay Guaranteed Fit, ebaymotors.com. Let's ride. eBay Guaranteed Fit is only available to U.S. customers, eligible items only, and exclusions do apply. Welcome back. You're listening to Locked On Game to Game MLB. I'm your host, Kainani Stevens. The Reds followed up their 12-game winning streak with 2 straight losses to the Braves over the weekend. While just barely holding on to that lead in the NL Central, Locked On Reds tells us what's turned things south for Cincinnati.
The Cincinnati Reds made two statements over the weekend. Number one, there is no one that they cannot hang with. And number two, if the front office makes like two moves, this team can own the NL Central. What's up? This is Jeff Carr from the Locked On Reds podcast. And sure, the Reds dropped 2 out of 3 to the Atlanta Braves at Great American Ballpark over the weekend. But two things stand out to me. Number one, everyone's bought in. Every single game was a sellout, absolutely amazing atmosphere at Great American Ballpark. And this Braves team came in with their own 8-game winning streak. The Reds stopped that on Friday, got the cycle from Elly De La Cruz, 2-homer game from Joey Votto, and every single game, even going back to the 3 in Atlanta, were 1-run games with the Reds and the Braves. If the Braves see the Reds in October, good luck, because this team is coming for the National League.
The best record in baseball beat one of the worst when the Rays topped the Royals on Sunday. Locked On Rays goes over Tampa's win.
It's the midway point of the season, and the Rays still have the best record in all of MLB. My name is Ulysses Sembrano, host of the Locked On Rays podcast. The Rays are now 54-27 during the season, and on Sunday they won behind Tyler Glasnow, who went 5 innings and struck out 12 batters in such a short outing in 88 pitches. Now the Rays are having a day off on Monday, and they will go on yet again another West Coast trip, even though they just came back from one a couple weeks ago, to face the Arizona Diamondbacks. And, of course, an icon of the Rays will be there, Evan Longoria. For this and much more, you can subscribe to our YouTube channel, Locked On Rays, and you can also follow us on any other podcast platform. Rays up.
The Guardians couldn't score their automatic runner on second in the bottom of the 10th, letting the Brewers pick up a win in Cleveland to end the weekend. Locked On Guardians goes over that home loss.
Well, the Guardians were unable to build off their momentum they gained in the Oakland series, that sweep, and they fell in their final game against the Brewers, 5-4 in 10 innings on Sunday. I'm Justin Laticos of Locked On Guardians. The Guardians did have to make a furious comeback. They were down 4-1 early on, even though Josh Naylor hit another early home run to put them ahead, but they weren't able to score 3 runs in the 6th inning to come back, unable to finish off the job. And of course, it was Owen Miller who had the game go-ahead hit in the 10th inning against the Guardians, just to kind of twist the knife a little bit further how things have gone lately. Some interesting position player decisions over the weekend. The Guardians did play both games fairly well on Saturday and Sunday after Friday's poor showing, after everything kind of fell apart late in the game. And we're going to get into all those interesting decisions on Locked On Guardians on Monday, so make sure you stay tuned before the Royals series starts.
Luis Robert hit 2 home runs to help Chicago win the Battle of the Sox on Sunday. Locked On White Sox and Red Sox have the details after the win for the Southsiders.
The Chicago White Sox beat the Boston Red Sox on Sunday 4-1. Hey, I'm Nick Morawski from Locked On White Sox. Chicago White Sox won the game and they won the series. It was their first series win since way back when, June 8th, when they beat the Yankees 2 out of 3. Luis Robert Jr. hit 2 more home runs on Sunday. His total for the season is at 21. He's also got 20 doubles. He is making a very strong case to be sent to Seattle for the All-Star game next month. Chicago White Sox are now 11 games under 500, and they are 6 games back in the Central. They head out west to take on the Los Angeles Angels beginning on Monday. Dylan Cease is on the mound. For more, check out the Locked On White Sox podcast.
I am just not in a good mood right now at all, to say the least. I mean, this Red Sox offense is just like so unbelievably inconsistent. Like, you leave 8 men on base today. How do you just not show up like that? I get that Verdugo's not in the lineup right now and he's a huge part of the offense, but that's not an excuse. When you have so many runners on base and you can't score them when you have the opportunity to, that's just so bad. It's just gotten to the point where this offense is just so unbelievably ridiculous that it's hard to rely on them in a given situation at any point. And imagine how much better this team would be right now if the offense was more consistent. You can't lose a series to the White Sox. Like, honestly, it's just, yesterday was a winnable game and I was frustrated after that, but today's just, maddening. Just maddening.
Welcome back. You're listening to Locked On Game to Game MLB. I'm your host, Kainani Stevens. The Rockies tried to get a little bit of revenge on the Angels on Sunday, or at least as much revenge as you can get after you give up 25 runs the night before. Locked On Angels has more after LA finally ran out of offense.
Talk about your highs and your hey lows. What's going on, everybody? John Frisch, one half of Locked On Angels. After a record-setting night on Saturday, scoring 25 runs, a franchise record, the Angels lose 4-3 on Sunday against the Colorado Rockies. It has not been a good week for our Halos. They've lost 4 out of 5 this week. Hopefully they can come back to the Big A, turn it around against the White Sox, and then they have the Diamondbacks coming in this weekend. Look, Tyler Anderson pitched pretty well. He pitched 6 innings, 4 hits, 3 runs, 9 strikeouts. Unfortunately, the Angels grounded into 4 double plays and didn't have a lot of opportunities to score by doing so. They had the opportunities and they squandered them. They were able to mount a little bit of a comeback in the 9th. Unfortunately, it was just not enough. Mike and I are going to talk about all the news from this weekend, the trades and the ups and the downs and everything in between. We're going to recap this weekend series on Locked On Angels, and we hope you'll join us.
Well, the Colorado Rockies make unfortunate history on Saturday, but end up winning a series against the Los Angeles Angels. Saturday's game will be the focal point and the thing that people look back to from this series, but the Rockies do win 2 out of 3, including some late game heroics on Friday, and Ezequiel Tovar leading the way in the finale for the Rockies. So it does end up being a series win for the Rockies. However, you still can't ignore what happened on Saturday. You can't look past the fact that the Rockies suffered the worst loss in franchise history. Something has to change, and something did change. Mike Moustakas getting traded right after the game for a pitcher, great, that's fine. But it doesn't matter. The Rockies' issues, the Rockies' lack of identity, and the flaws of the Rockies were on full display on Saturday night. Great to get the series win, but I'm not going to forget that game any other time soon. We'll break it all down right here on Locked On Rockies.
Mackenzie Gore got a win for the Nationals and revenge against his former team in the Padres on Sunday. Locked On Nationals host tells us everything that you need to know post-game.
The Washington Nationals beat the San Diego Padres of a score of 8-3. I'm Ryan Clary, host of the Locked On Nationals podcast. Mackenzie Gore went 5 innings today, 9 strikeouts, and most importantly, in my mind, striking out Juan Soto 3 times today. And I've tried to think about this, and we're going to do a little bit of a deeper dive in tomorrow's Locked On Nationals show. But when was the last time that Juan Soto struck out 3 times in one game, but also 3 times in one game to one pitcher? I think that was a very intriguing stat from today's game, but it wasn't just Mackenzie Gore today, as Jeimer Candelario led the way, 3 RBIs, 3 hits, and 3 runs scored. It was huge to see that. Luis Garcia as well, who had 2 hits in the party. Lane Thomas, per usual, 1 hit as well. This Nationals team had a complete victory today, and there was really no issues with anything about the Nationals' performance.
2 of the last 3 World Series champions met in LA over the weekend, with the final matchup between the Astros and Dodgers going to extra innings on Sunday. Our Locked On local experts give us everything you need to know about how things finished up last night.
Wow, that was intense. That was insane. And why was Montero pitching in the 8th? Hey, I'm H.M. Wellhouse. You were Locked On Astros, and the Astros take Game 3 and only go 1-2 to begin this road trip as they head to St. Louis. Hunter Brown pitched an excellent game, 6 innings pitched, only 1 run given up, 2 walks to 7 strikeouts, and he had a 4-1 lead when he left. The Astros would give up 3 runs in the 8th, which would erase the 2-run home runs by both Abreu and Pena. Excellent shots, by the way. And some bad base running towards the end almost plagued the Astros. The Astros scratch across 2 runs in extra innings to win 6-5. They come within 5.5 games of the Texas Rangers. They're solely in second place as they head to St. Louis. Stay tuned in to Locked On Astros. We're your team every day. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. Make sure you become an everydayer. Go Stros.
That's it for this edition of Locked On Game to Game MLB. We thank you so much for making Locked On your first listen every single weekday. Now go make sure that you are subscribed to Locked On MLB and your favorite team's Locked On podcast on YouTube and wherever else you get your podcasts from. I'm Kainani Stevens. This has been Locked On Game to Game.